There is nobody here who is present. There is nobody here listening. There is nobody here feeling. There is nobody here seeing, smelling, or tasting. The illusion that there is a me here in the center of all this who is experiencing these senses is actually blinding you from truly experiencing the truth of these five senses directly. And it's also blinding you from realizing the truth of what you truly are. So I'm going to direct you towards a couple experiences that will change the way these senses are experienced. Let's look at listening. Does it feel like there is a you here that is listening to this video? Does it feel like the body is listening to this? Well, if it does, I want you to notice this really quick. There is no listener. All that's actually here is sound appearing. Sounds are appearing within consciousness. There is no listener of these sounds. The activity of hearing is the sound itself. Hearing is the sound directly. There isn't something being heard by someone. There is just sound appearing within consciousness. It's very direct. There isn't truly an activity of listening, because that would imply that there is someone separate from the sound that is able to listen to the sound. There is just sounds. If this is hard for you to realize that there is no listener, you first have to realize that you are tracing the sound back to the illusion of a me listening. Meaning you feel as if there is a me here in this body who's listening to these sounds, but drop the me and simply notice sounds still appear without the idea of a me listening. Because there is no receiver of sounds, there is just sound. Notice that sound has its own reality. It's not mixed with any other senses, but it does work with other senses to help co-create our experience of what we call the world. It's not like sight can listen or smell can listen. Each sense has its own reality. And I know sometimes it feels like we are receiving the sound through the sensations of the body, most likely from the sensation of the head, but that's not true. Because sensations can't hear anything, sensation are simply sensations, and sound is sound. I know you may have heard me or other people say, listen with your whole body, or listen with your being instead of listening with the ears. And that is simply just another way to point to the experience we are trying to get you to experience. You're not actually listening with the body. And listening with your being is not listening with the body. Your being is not the body. When you listen with your being, the listener falls away, and all that's left is the sound itself. So if you are ever directed to listen, drop the listener. The listener is the sound itself, because there is no listening happening. Listening is our way of describing attention being placed on a specific sound, but there is no listener. Hearing is the sound. So see if you can stay with the sound for a couple seconds and notice that sound is just that sound. You don't need to think about who or what is listening. Also, the sound has no location. You saying it over there or right here is coming from thought. There is no over there or over here. Notice that sound rises out of nowhere. It rises out of nothing. The source of sound is you. It's silence. Everything rises out of it, and it has no specific location. To claim that something is over there, you would be implying that there is a me here, but there isn't. So once you get the hang of experiencing sound directly as what it is, you can begin to apply that same approach to all the other senses. So let's focus on feeling now. I've talked a lot about feeling your feelings, and that can be a misleading way of describing the actual experience of feeling feelings, because there isn't a feeler of feelings. There are just feelings. And it's only when the illusion of the feeler is seen through, that's when you are truly able to allow what's appearing to be felt fully, which is very important. Because that's when you begin to realize that there's nothing wrong with any sensation, which allows you to no longer be afraid of sensations, which is the only true thing we resist and run away from. Anger, fear, anxiousness, etc. All of this can be seen for what it is. So for now, I want you to notice the sensations of what we call the body. Don't notice it as being the feeler, just notice the feeling of feelings as just being feelings. That's what it is. It literally is what it is. You don't have to add a me who takes ownership of it in the middle of that. It may feel like I am feeling the body, or I am the body, but there is no feeler. There are just sensations. Make that perspective switch and keep it simple. The same way sound has its own reality, so does sensations. So the activity of feeling is the sensation itself. There isn't really any activity that's happening. It's simply the noticing of sensation as sensations. Because there is no separate person who stands apart that is feeling those feelings. In feeling, there is just the felt. You don't need to think about who's feeling or what is feeling, because there isn't a who or what. This is why when you do try to figure that out, you always come up empty-handed, because there is nothing there. You may hear it's consciousness that's feeling, or it's consciousness that's seeing and hearing, but consciousness is no thing. It's not a thing. It's nothing, so there isn't a feeler, or a listener, or a seer. The listener is the sound itself, the feeler is the sensation itself, the seer is what's seen, etc., etc. And these senses do not need the illusion of a me who claims to be the one experiencing them. The me is not listening. It doesn't exist. The me is not feeling. It doesn't exist. The me is not seeing. It doesn't exist. When you let go of that me, the freedom from senses will now be available. You begin to realize they aren't affecting consciousness at all. They aren't even touching you. You are completely free from all five senses, regardless of how uncomfortable a sensation may appear, or how loud a sound is. Consciousness, you, are beyond them all, because they are appearing within you. They aren't outside of you, so they can't stand apart from consciousness to harm consciousness. Let's look at sight. The same rule applies. What's seeing is simply what's seen. It's that direct and simple. You can let go of the seer of experience, and I promise what's seen will still be present, whatever is being seen. isn't being seen by someone. Seeing is sight itself. Theirs isn't someone in the middle of it. The seer is sight itself, meaning there is no seer, there is just what's seen. Allow that to be obvious. There is no receiver of any of these senses. There isn't a listener. There is just sound. There is no feeler. There is just the felt. And when you can directly experience them as what they are without involving a me that's experiencing them, you'll first begin to notice the consciousness that you are completely free from all five senses, which can bring you into pure presence. These senses are like portals into presence. Stick with one of those and notice how it pulls consciousness back into presence. There is also nobody here that is present. There is just presence. It has its own reality. It's very freeing when you begin to change the relationship you have with these senses. When you're able to stand independent from them, that's freedom. And you may ask, how could I possibly be free from these senses? When you're no longer depending on these five senses to validate your existence, you're free. You have to realize that these senses need consciousness to appear to exist. You don't need them to exist. You can rest within yourself. Instead of resting in the senses, you can go beyond the five senses and this world and rest within yourself. And that's where the heaven within you is. It's within yourself, not within the body, because the body is within this world. You are literally not here. Nobody is. You have to let go of the world completely. It's not a physical place. It's a spiritual place. It's imaginary. It's a product of the mind. The mind is the world. So let go of the mind. This is where you go to be one with God or the universe. This is where you find yourself. And doing so completely changes the relationship you have with the world and the five senses. And it's amazing. The world becomes very dreamlike. It doesn't feel or appear as solid as it used to. And this allows you to approach this experience in a very playful way. What's experienced can finally be freely experienced without the unnecessary conflict and pushing and pulling. The anger you try to suppress because the me thinks it's bad is now allowed. It's now a playful expression. The fear that the me tries to run from is now allowed. You see that the fear is no longer feared by anyone. You just see fear as fear. You have no problem with it anymore. And eventually it just drops away. The same applies to anything else that you may have previously had issues with. So practice being with these senses for what they are. I promise it will open a whole new perspective and world for you. And as you begin to realize that consciousness isn't affected by these senses, go beyond them and rest within yourself.